All good. All right, good evening. Welcome to the 2025 SEC Baseball Tournament Game 3 post-game press conference. We're joined by South Carolina Gamecocks, represented by head coach Paul Maneri, along with center fielder Nathan Hall. In a moment, Coach will give an opening statement, and then we'll take questions directed to Nathan only, please. Then we'll let Nathan go, and Coach will take questions. Easton and Kinsley are on each side passing microphones, so please raise your hand and wait to be called upon. Coach, if you can give us an opening statement.
Well, I thought we'd have a tough game today. Obviously, Florida's got outstanding players, and got off to a start there, bases loaded, nobody out in the first inning, and they only could get one run out of it. And they turned around and hit the 3-run home run, and after that, a couple more home runs. And we had opportunities, just couldn't capitalize on them. So in the end, it was kind of the story of our season, really. The other team hit home runs. We didn't hit any or haven't hit many. And, we left a lot of runners on base. Ultimately, the better team won.
All right, if we can get questions to Nathan, please raise your hand. In the center of the room, second row.
Nathan, after the season has ended now, what has this year meant to you, being a Gamecock here for 1 year?
It wasn't what we wanted as a team, but I couldn't be more thankful for Coach Maneri and Monty Lee and Coach Rooney for giving me an opportunity to play here. It's easy for a staff like this to see what I've done in the past and not believe in me and not give me a shot, and to be able to play every day in the best conference in college baseball at an amazing program. It's been a true blessing. It's been amazing.
On the fourth row on the right side.
And along those lines, how do you feel like your season went for you personally? Did you feel like you were able to live up to your expectations?
I feel like regardless of how I do, I never really live up to my expectations. I am a little bit disappointed that I could have done a better job for the team in the back half of the season, but it is what it is, and it's just you got to take each game one day at a time, and I feel like I did a good job with that.
More questions on the left side.
Nathan, if you can hear me well, Matthew Towery from World Baseball Network. You're one of 4 players that had an average over 300. How do you feel like your mechanics can transition over if you want to play at the next level soon?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a good spot. The main thing is just staying, being confident, knowing that I'm good enough. There's going to be failure. There's going to be, stuff that happens. So, yeah.
More questions for Nathan? If not, Nathan, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, if there are questions for Coach Maneri, please raise your hand. Start on the right side.
Paul, you talked last summer about part of the attraction of the job being the program wasn't in the doldrums and you felt like you were close. Now that the program kind of is in the doldrums after this year, does it still feel the same kind of energy for you going into next year and beyond?
Yeah, it was a tough year. I'm not used to these kind of seasons, quite frankly, and it got off to a rough start when we lost what we thought was going to be our Friday night starter before the season began in Eli Jersenbeck when he got hurt in preseason, and then shortly after that, Nolan Naraki, who we thought would be our second baseman and hit a bunch of home runs, was really never himself, and now he's had knee surgery. And then you look at Talmadge LaCroix, who broke his thumb the second inning of the first game of the year, never really swung the bat the way that he could, and then when he hurt his hip, he was out for the year, and then, of course, the last month, without Petrie. So I'm not making excuses. It's just reality. We didn't have the depth to overcome some of those things. I'm an optimist by nature, and I thought, that we would have the, what it took to compete in this league. Obviously, we didn't, the way the season went. But it hasn't, I'm disappointed but not discouraged. We're working really hard in recruiting. We've already lined up some really, really good players for next year through the junior college ranks. We have a few guys in the freshman class the previous staff had recruited that we're real excited about. And then we're anxious for the transfer portal to open on June 2nd. and we're obviously going to need a lot of players there. We've recruited already a really outstanding high school class of 2026. So I think the future is bright for our program. And, like I said, I'm disappointed about this year, but I'm not discouraged about the future. We're just going to keep rolling up our sleeves and working hard at it, and hopefully we're going to be a lot better next year.
On the right side, fourth row.
The pitching staff had the worst ERA in program history this year. Do you still believe in Terry Rooney as a pitching coach, or do you consider restructuring your coaching staff in any way?
No, Terry Rooney is here to stay. He's an outstanding coach, great recruiter, great pitching coach. You do the best you can, and we'll get better. We need to. We had some young kids, I think, that showed flashes of being pretty good for us, and we're going to get some kids in recruiting, and we've got a couple freshmen coming in that I think are going to help us. And Terry Rooney is here to stay. He's not going anywhere. He's an outstanding coach, and he'll prove that as we go forward. And there won't be any other changes with our staff.
On the left side, second row.
Coach, how do you just feel that, with Florida's pitching, Bartow, Roland, Rodriguez, flat out dominated today. What do you see in what you guys can accomplish this fall? You talked about the recruiting class a few minutes ago. How do you just feel about guys that you can have deep innings, whether it's the back end of the pen or maybe certain stars that could eat up going into the fall season?
Matt, I'm not sure what the question was. What was the question?
How did you feel about, what Florida matched up today with Bartow, Roland, and Rodriguez pitching, and what you guys want to accomplish with the recruiting class for this upcoming fall with certain guys?
As far as our pitching goes, like I said, we're going to go out and recruit the best kids that we can and get some quality arms and, build upon the guys that we have in our program that we think have a good future, and I think we'll be a lot better next year.
In the middle of the room, third row.
Paul, after the season you guys have had here, do you feel you have the full support of the administration to be able to turn this thing around the way you see that is possible?
Yes. Very simply, yes.
More questions for Coach? If not, Coach, we appreciate your time.
Todd, good to see you.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the 2025 SEC Baseball Tournament Game 3 post-game press conference. We're joined by the Florida Gators, represented by head coach Kevin O'Sullivan, along with shortstop Bobby Bozer, designated hitter Ty Evans. In a moment, Coach will give an opening statement, then we'll take questions directed to the players only, please, and then we'll let them go. There's a microphone on each side of the room. Please raise your hand and wait for the microphone to get you before asking the question. Coach, if we can get an opening statement.
Yeah, I thought we played a pretty complete game. We got out of the bases loaded jam there in the first and only gave up one, so that was key to us getting off to a good start. We swung the bats extremely well. Have some guys playing out of position, and I don't think we made any errors today. And we're just excited about the opportunity to play Ole Miss tomorrow.
All right, we can get questions to Ty and Bobby, please. Just raise your hand on the left side.
Bobby, Matt Talvin from World Baseball Network. What's it like being the catalyst of your offense and just hitting that 3-run home run in the second? What was the pitch that you sequenced there in that at bat?
I was just looking for a heater over the plate, something good up in the zone. I take a lot of pride in being able to lead this offense, lead off the game, and I think I do a pretty good job of getting the guys going and just hoping to fuel these guys from here.
On the right side, third row.
Jacob Rudner with Baseball America. For both of you guys, what do you think's contributed to this turnaround that you guys have experienced after the first half of SEC play to what you're doing now?
Probably just the love that we got for each other, man. I feel like in order to make kind of a comeback like this, you got to have a core group of guys that love each other, willing to fight for each other, and I feel like that's definitely what we have.
Bobby, go ahead.
No, day in and day out, just continuing to fight with these guys, just creating that gel, creating the flow. I think we've done a pretty good job coming back and continuing to fight, so just hoping to continue that.
Any more questions for the players? One more on the left.
For Ty and Bobby, what's it like to see guys like Barlow, Rowland, and Rodriguez go out there and shove today?
It's great. We needed them to step up this game. Pretty down on starting pitching right now, just for short rests. Needed a few guys to step up, and they did their job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being in the tournament the last couple of years, I mean, you definitely need depth, and you need guys that don't throw near as much to kind of go deeper at times. So we were able to do that today and save a little arms for tomorrow for sure.
Any more questions for the players? If not, Bobby, Ty, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. If you have questions for Coach, please raise your hand. On the right side.
Same question I asked the players. From your view, what's contributed to the turnaround for you guys, and how have you gotten to this point?
Well, I think it all goes back to last summer. About a couple weeks before the draft, had a really long talk with Ty, and he had an opportunity to sign professionally and came back. Colby did the same thing, decided to come back. Luke Heyman, who's sophomore eligible, decided to come back. Pierce Capola decided to come back. So I think it really started back then. And when we got all four of those guys back, we felt like not only were we going to get really good players back, but our leadership was going to be special. And obviously we didn't draw it up the way we wanted to, but they believed in themselves, and the turnaround that we've gone through it could have gone one of two ways. It could have ended up being historically a bad season for us, or it could end up being a terrific story. And we just started to play a little bit better in spite of the injuries, and we've continued to do that. But it really has started last July, a couple weeks before the draft, when those guys all decided to come back.
Next question for Coach. On the front row, second row on the right.
Hunter Lauder, ESPN Gainesville. Coach, what do you think about Blaine Rowland? He just seems to be another freshman pitcher, just never seems to be phased, or doesn't let the moment get too big for him. He goes out there and goes, I think it was 3 2/3 today, and gives you guys a lot more options going forward this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's another great example. As long as you throw strikes and able to change speeds, and it's a big ballpark. Obviously, he was playing a little bit smaller today because of the wind, but he just continues to throw strikes and doesn't hurt himself. He fields his position really well, and it was really important for us to have a game like this today, because now we haven't used Jake since last Thursday, and we threw 29 pitches. So we got, our number one going tomorrow in Liam. We can extend Jake if need be. So we're in as good a shape as we could be in, pitching-wise going into tomorrow's game.
On the left.
Coach, Brody helping the pitching staff out today. How do you just feel about what he's done defensively and then also today offensively? I mean, just having that home run in the fifth, that just blew up you guys, putting up an 11th spot today. How do you just feel that Brody's been a big help since the fall?
Yeah, I mean, he's played in a lot of big games for us over the last couple of years. Going back to the Super Regional last year against Clemson, he had a huge pickoff at first base in a bunt situation that sometimes gets overlooked because that was one of them, probably one of the most exciting games that people have seen. I mean, it was a back and forth game, but that play sometimes gets overlooked. But he's caught in some big games for us. Obviously, everybody's disappointed about what happened with Luke because the season he was having, but it's like it's the same old saying, next man up. So he did a really nice job tonight behind the plate, and obviously he's been swinging the bat as well as anybody in our lineup.
On the right side, second row.
Coach, how important was it for your offense to respond after South Carolina cut it to 4 in the 8th, maybe made it a little bit of a ball game, but to come back out and put 4 on the board to really put it out of reach?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you could score after your opponent scores, I mean, you kind of like the momentum goes into the South Carolina's dugout, and all of a sudden now it comes back into our dugout. So it's really important. And really, we talk to our hitters all the time and our pitchers. If we can get to a point where we can instead of having a 4-run lead, get to a 5-run lead, so the opposing team cannot tie the game with one swing of the bat. So, that inning was obviously really important for us.
On the right side, third row.
Have you seen the bullpen in particular step up over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, Luke McNeely's a huge part of that. Obviously today, Blaine was a huge part of that. C-Rod, kept throwing strikes there at the end, didn't make it interesting. We've got a lot of guys that have stepped up, but that's what you need in postseason play. You're not going to get to Omaha unless starting pitching is in place. You have a guy at the end. You've got some guys that can bridge the gap to your closer. You got to play good defense, and you have to have timely hitting. And you got to hit with runners on base. So, fortunately for us, we for the most part have been playing sound baseball over the last 6 weeks or so.
Any other questions for Coach? In the second row.
Laura McGill, ESPN Gainesville. Coach, obviously this team has had to face a lot of hardships from the beginning to the end with injuries. How have you seen these injured players continue to support their team off of the field?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're a tight-knit group, and last Thursday I believe it was when Luke got hit in the wrist. You can almost feel the dugout get a little deflated, and then the next inning, Justin takes a ground ball off his finger, and it was like musical chairs, moving things around. And then we got to go to Blake Brookins, who we were hoping to redshirt, but we had nobody left on the bench. When we played Texas the Saturday game, we literally, when Justin went down with an illness before the game, we literally had nobody on the bench other than 3 players that were hoping to redshirt. So, and then Blake gets a double, and it's a great story. It's just one of those things that, everybody has to deal with injuries, but, when you lose your catcher and then your shortstop and Colby, who we hope to get back, for the regionals, and you lose Kate Curlin, who's one of our leaders, for the entire year. You lose Kyle Jones for the entire year, who played maybe 3 or 4 games. You're losing your whole middle of your, defense and 4 of your top 5 hitters, arguably. But then guys keep stepping up, just like Hayden Yost steps up today, and everybody else steps up, and that's been just that type of year for us. But we never want to use it as an excuse. There's a standard in Florida, and we just had to persevere through it, and we still have a long ways to go. But certainly, we put ourselves in a position not even just to get in a tournament, that we're in discussion to host. So we'll see what we need to do, but it's been a lot of fun. It really has, but they've got bigger goals ahead of them. So hopefully we could stay healthy just enough to put out a lineup.
Any more for Coach? One more on the right.
Coach, you guys have Ole Miss tomorrow. You guys already played them in a series earlier this year. Anything you can take from that series, or is it just going to be like a clean slate tomorrow?
I mean, they're different. I mean, we played them early in the year. So, I mean, it's a totally different Ole Miss team, and we're a totally different Florida team. I don't know how much we could take away from that series. They're talented. They're older. You know, I'm assuming they're going to throw their number one. We got Liam going for us. They're well rested. They've had a great year. You know, so we'll just go out and play tomorrow and see how it goes.
All right, Coach. Congratulations.
All right,
today.
thank you.
See you tomorrow.
You got it. Thank you.